They don't understand. I have glaucoma. I can't stand all these lights. I'm an alcoholic. My name is Ora. Hi. And I'm sober but for the grace of God, the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and people like you in rooms like this, and for that I am grateful. I'd like to welcome our newcomers and let you know the program does work. If we have any relapses in here, if you want to use that clinical term, what you need to hear is relapse is not a part of recovery. The program always works. People fail, but the program does not fail. Now, I'm going to tell this lie that I always tell, and 4 or 5 people have asked me, Ora, are you going to get up there and lie this morning? I'd like to thank Bob D. and the committee for asking me to come and share with you. And I'd like to thank all of my hosts and hostesses, everybody. This is not a lie. Everybody has been so kind to me, and for that I thank you. So much for the amenities. I'm one of your jail-going drunks. And my concept was if you had 6 children and lived in Compton, you'd drink too. I know that isn't so today. I had 6 children. And somebody down the street could call the police, and I go outside to see what's going on, and I'm the only one go to jail. I just couldn't understand that. But I guess when you, in Compton, I know now, and I'm going to try to use 2 words that Bob gave me. When you tell the police maternal fornicator, don't do me no favors, lock me up. They will immediately lock you up. You see, I don't say that I can't drink. I don't say that I can't do anything, okay? But I know that if I take a drink, I go directly to jail. I do not pass go. I do not collect 200. I don't collect nothing. And if I thought, you see, my track record shows that my drinking is not what's going on since I've been sober. Now, when I got to you, though, there was nothing wrong with my drinking. I didn't think anything was wrong with my drinking. I just felt that my luck needed to change. If I get another man with more money, I get another profession that pays more. If I could get somebody to come in here and take care of these 6 kids and clean up this house, I'd keep it together from then on. And that has been the story of my life. I've always wanted somebody else to fix it. On June the 10th, 1975, and please don't applaud because June the 11th is my birthday. I'll have 23 years of sobriety, one day at a time. But on June the 10th, I was sitting in the office. I was interviewing a client for a bankruptcy, and they had just come out with those Tupperware tumblers with the cap on them, and I had demoted myself to Wolfschmitz. But my head told me that if I put a little grapefruit juice in it, it should change my metabolism and not make me fat. So I had about that much grapefruit juice and about that much vodka, okay? And I was interviewing a client for a bankruptcy. I scooted back in the secretarial chair to get something, and I fell out the chair. It frightened the client to death. And I used my favorite word then. I said, F it, I'm okay. About 30 minutes later, this lady walked into the office that knew the lady that I was working for, the attorney I was working for, and she told me later, she said she had about 3 months of sobriety, and she was not sure whether she was an alcoholic or not. But when she looked at me, she knew I was an alcoholic, and I was so much like her until she had to be. She never questioned it again. I'm not going to get into this 12-step bit, but when I got here, we were doing a lot of 12-step calls. She took me to meetings all over Los Angeles for about 2 weeks. And then she gave me a directory and said she was going to San Francisco. And I said, well, what am I going to do? She said, if you want to stay sober, you're going to make meetings. And that's the way it happened for me. Now, I told you that when I got here, I didn't think alcohol. See, because when I took a drink, I didn't say I'm going to take a drink of alcohol. I'm going to have a drink of Cavassier, a ripple. But I never looked upon it as being alcohol, okay? And when I was driven into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I used the word driven because the book tells me that under the lash of alcoholism, I was driven into AA. And when I was driven into Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the most profound statements I have heard in my life is, if you don't drink, you don't get drunk. And thank God I was sitting in a meeting, because when they said that, I said, no shit. I never heard that before. It was really an awakening for me. I told you that I went to jail with consistent regularity. I have to do some of my drunken logs, for somebody to identify. But I used to, if you're an alcoholic, I don't have to explain this to you. Somewhere along the way, I bought a wig. And I bought the Oriental wig with the bangs in the front and the page boy behind. And depending on how I felt when I started drinking, I would pass out on the bathroom floor in my house to be cool. And I have 4 sons. And I know they walked, past me and seen me and they're naked. That doesn't make me feel good today. But I would come to the next morning or whenever it was, and something in my gut would tell me, or you have messed up again. I would do what I called my latrine devotional, and that's all that vomiting and stuff coming up in the green bile and the yellow bile. And I had a God that I prayed to in those days, and my prayer was, God, if you get me out of this, I'll never do it again. And as soon as I could hold something down, my head say, run around the corner to Brownie's liquor store and get you one. And the madness would start all over again. I might not have known how the 3rd chapter puts incomprehensible demoralization together, but I knew what it was to feel funky and low down most of the time. I knew what it was to fall short of my expectations. A little bit before I came here, I was no longer making promises to anybody, but I would tell myself, I'm not going to get so drunk. Now, I don't remember ever saying, I'll never drink again. I don't remember that. If I remember it, I'll reveal it to you. Okay? During the holidays that we celebrate, Memorial Day and Labor Day and all of that, I used to say, I am not going to get so drunk today. Today is going to be for the kids. And I would have those white capris that I had cut off to make Bermuda shorts out of because I couldn't, afford to buy them. They would have grease spots all over them, and they would be gray. And my feet would be ashy, and my hair would be nappy. And if you don't know what nappy hair is on a sister, it's the kind of hair that you can't even draw a garden rake through. And I would tell myself, today is going to be for the kids. And before I even got to the point of putting the coal in the grill, I'd be drunk again and passed out somewhere. Now, I always felt bad when I came to, but in order to buffer that badness, I would get drunk again. So it was a continual treadmill for me. I was one of your record-playing drunks, and by the time I got to you, my 2 favorite records was Bill Withers' Use Me Up and Roberta Flack's Trying Times. I stayed drunk on B.B. King's Nobody Loves Me But My Mother, and sometimes I think she's jiving too. And I felt that way in sobriety. I didn't just come in here and straighten up. I used to go to jail, and I would look at that man up there. When I would go to court, I would look at that judge up there in that black robe, and I knew that he held my life in the palm of his hands. And once again, I would pray, God, if you get me out of this, I'll never do it again. And I would get cut loose most of the time. But if you be an alcoholic like I am, I used to have to make a shortcut across Compton Boulevard and stop into Boys Market and get me one before I got home. Because if you're my type of alcoholic, people ask you the damnedest things at the damnedest times. Like, or why did you do blah? And I don't even remember doing it, okay? But I would cop out to doing it because it sounded something like I had been thinking previously. And I had a phrase that I used to say, and it was, "I'm sorry, I'll never do it again." Now, I was born, raised, bred, or whatever they do to you down in Texas. And when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I came to you with all the arrogance I think any Texan can have, because I think Texans are more arrogant than anybody. But that's an opinion, and you know what that means. Everybody got one, right? And my attitude when I got to you was, don't tell me nothing. You want to know something? Ask me. I could tell you everything about a Rolls Royce, and I have not ridden in one yet. And I talked about big money, and closest I've been to big money is leaning up against a bank building. But I wouldn't have told you that. I came in here with all of the delusions and illusions that book talks about. They started talking about the big book, and I said, "Oh, this book is written for a third grader. A third grader can read this." So I read the big book in 2 days, worked the 12 steps on my lunch hour, and said, "What else is new?" I am so grateful for the old timers, and I must recognize the old timers. Because even today, I don't question anything they say. It might go on in my head, but I'm not going to disrespect them. That's just the way that I was raised. Sponsorship is more than important to me. I know that I can't do this program alone. Now, I work very intensely with my sponsor today, not because I have a lot of problems, but because of this spiritual growth. I ran into this meeting yesterday as we were coming from the airport. I said, I got to make me a meeting. I haven't made a meeting in about 2 days. And see, 2 days for me is dangerous, not because I'm going to drink, but because I'm insane. Things on the outside of me start bothering me. Okay? And I tell people wherever I share that I have grave emotional and mental disorders. So if you're sitting in this room today and you say you're an alcoholic you're in a world of trouble, honey. Because I'm just an alcoholic and I'm in a world of trouble. Sponsorship is really, really important. And I know that I'm a real alcoholic. I'm a real alcoholic. And the only way that I know how to stay sober is a conscious contact with a power greater than myself, whom I choose to call God. Now, there are two consciousnesses, and I'm not a teacher or anything, but I had to go through this for me. I'm sharing my experience. There's a conscience, that thing that bothers you when you've done something wrong. And then there's a conscious, and that's what the big book is talking about, which means to bring it to awareness. And see, I'm not one of your alcoholics. I hear people say, and that's fine for them. I hear them say they get into this insane thinking and insane behavior, and program clicks in. Well, program don't click in for me when I get in that mess. My head tells me, hey, I've been spiritual long enough. Let's start some mess around here. Shit. And I'll tell you one thing that really happens at 22 years of sobriety, I can rationalize much better. It's just that I've become a little more honest, okay? But that insanity sets in. And that's when I don't make my meetings. And everybody that I have asked people, what made you go out? The first thing comes out of their mouth is, I stopped making meetings. I stopped making meetings. A friend of mine is sitting in this room, Herman, and he says, he doesn't need but one meeting a week. And since he doesn't know which meeting that is, he makes a lot of meetings. That makes sense to me. The 12 steps are, I want to use something a little more heavier than necessary in my life. Because without the 12 steps and the 12 principles that are interwoven in those steps, I don't know where I'd be today. I don't know where I would be without that lady that made that 12-step call on me and saw that I got to AA. I don't know where I would be without people like you in rooms like this that loved me. The second thing I heard in Alcoholics Anonymous was, let us love you until you can love yourself. And my attitude was, I do love me, nobody else does. And I really felt that way. You know, I wanted to be the daughter the mother wanted. I wanted to be the mother the kids wanted, the woman the man wanted, the student the professor wanted, and nobody acted like they wanted me. That's in my head, and that's the disease of alcoholism. And sometimes I go through the same thing today. So I don't want you to sit up here and say, oh, she's got her stuff together. I am totally insane. I tell these people that come in here with these little games, you look at an alcoholic and you think we're nothing but some old something, piece of fuzz or something in the gutter. And you walk up to us with that BS. Bob didn't give me a word for that. You walk up to us with those games, and we've played those games. And when I tell you, you bring the weakest game to the strongest players, you want to know what's wrong with me when I cut you off proper. I don't deal in politics. I'm not concerned what nobody thinks about me. I am concerned about what I think about me and what I think about you. That's most important. This is not a selfish program to me. It's a selfless. You raised me in this program that I had to give it away in order to keep it. And I don't know how the program works any better than one drunk talking to another. I mean that. My people still don't understand. You still go to that AA thing? Yeah. You still go to church, don't you? But I don't get into a debate with them. You've taught me not to debate, okay? But it's always that AA thing. Now, for the women that are sitting in this room, maybe I need not go there. For the women that are sitting in this room, and you think you need a man to make yourself a woman, you're in a delusion. For the men that are sitting in this room and you think you need a woman to make you a man, you're in full flight from reality. Because you see, I am totally convinced that we are all God's kids. If one of us ain't, none of us is. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. I remember when I used to get drunk and carry on and sit on those harem pillows. Probably some young people don't know what harem pillows are. And I'm using the word drunk instead of the other word. And I used to ask myself, what am I doing here? What is my purpose for being here? There's got to be more to this than just being born, having babies, and dying. And I am so grateful for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous because it tells me every time I walk in a meeting, my primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. My main purpose is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and my fellow man. And the rest is all BS as far as I'm concerned. Will I go to any length? I drove a long ways in Los Angeles the other day, and the lady said, oh, Ori, it's such a long ways. I said, I'd have gone further than this to get a drink. And I must always remember from whence I came. If you're new in here today, I want to let you know that we love you. We've been waiting for you. And I'm not talking about that motel love. You're going to hear, no, because you talk to somebody like me about it, you're going to get talked about pretty bad, okay? You're going to hear in a lot of meetings for the newcomer, keep coming back. And why do I say keep coming back? Because there's a spirit that moves in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you just keep coming back, there's an unconditional love that comes about. And I'm not talking about that emotional, tender feeling love, okay? Love to me is that miracle, okay, that puts matter into motion. That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter what you got. I don't care where you work, what color you are, where you live, how many millions of dollars you got or don't got, what car you drive. That doesn't interest me. The only thing that interests me is, do you want to go through the book, learn what the steps are, and apply it in your life? I did not come here willing to stay sober. I didn't even know what willing was. And the third step talks about that. It says practicing this step, which is we had made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. It said over to the care. It didn't say nothing about turning it over. How am I going to turn something over to something that owns it? I don't understand that. But you have to do what you have to do. I have to do what I have to do, okay? It says practicing this step is like the opening of a door, which to all appearances seems closed and locked. And there is a key that will open that door. The key is willingness. Once we pick up the key of willing, and I'm not quoting exactly, once we pick up the key of willingness, the door opens ever so slightly. But that's all that it takes to begin. Now, it also tells me that there's something that'll slam that door shut every time. Self-will. And honey, I know a lot about self-will. Running, ride, standing still, or whatever, self-will, okay? And most of the babies that God puts in my life are into self-will too. But it says, once I pick that key of willingness up again, the door will open, so it always works. But if you notice, the big book uses words like develop. I must develop a manner of willingness. I must develop a manner of honesty. So it means I just can't come in here and grab this thing and, boogie on down the road. And these 30 days and 90 days and 1 year and 2 year wonders really crack me up. If they got it, they got it, but not me. Today, in my sobriety, I am learning, just beginning to understand what people like you told me when I had about 2 years of sobriety. It's just beginning to sink in. And the other side of the coin is that it has prepared me for my life today without me even knowing it. So I know God had a hand in that, because you guys are not that smart. Okay? I know some in here that would say they are. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous is fantastic. You hear a lot of things from this podium, a lot of things. One thing that I don't hear very often anymore is this program works in spite of me. Because the disease of alcoholism, which is in right here, the way I think, and I have not disciplined myself too well to not say it. I'm the type, as soon as it hits my head, it drops right out of my mouth. Some of you in here have heard this. About 2 years ago, maybe a little more, this lady and I were in the Cerritos Mall, and we were shopping. See, somebody hadn't heard this. And as we were coming out of the mall, out of this store, a lady walked up to us, and she said, "Is there a J.C. Penney's in this mall?" And I said, "What, do I look like, a fucking directory to you?" And I said it before I thought. So the lady, I sponsored this lady. She walked up behind me and started interacting with the lady. I took a seat on the wall by the waterfall, and I looked at her. And I had to ask myself a series of questions like, self, did you have to answer like that? And my answer came up, yes. I said, oh no. I knew I was sick. So when she got through talking to the lady or whatever, I said, how can you do that, baby? Oh, my father taught me blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to tell you what I wanted to tell her, but I didn't tell her. Forget you, your father, and everybody else. But it just goes to let me know that the disease of alcoholism is rampant. You see, I still have the capacity to drink. I still have the capacity to be dishonest. I still have the capacity to get drunk. I still have the capacity to steal from you. I have that capacity, but it's but for the grace of God that I don't act on it today. That I don't act on it today. You see, there's more to it than just not drinking for me. I can't go to bed tonight with some woman's husband and say, but I didn't take a drink today. I can't rip you off for your money today and say, but I didn't take a drink today. I cannot intentionally hurt you whether you're alcoholic or not. If you're God's child, I can't do that and say, but I didn't drink today. Because there's more to it than not drinking. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous are character building steps. And believe me, there are people in the program that say, it didn't cost me anything to get here. Well, I paid a hell of a price to get to Alcoholics Anonymous. And nobody, nowhere is going to put me out of AA. I haven't stuck with nothing this long in my life, except my children. And then I won't even go off into that. When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, they told me, if I made a list of the things that I wanted, I would sell myself short. And I know that to be true today. You see, I'm not into wanting so much. I'm not into asking God to do this for me or to do that for me as much as I am into gratitude. And gratitude is just not a feeling for me. I have to demonstrate my gratitude by being there when someone needs service to be done. It doesn't matter whether you're alcoholic or not alcoholic. I have to demonstrate my gratitude. See, I don't say I help anybody, because if I say I help somebody, then that puts an expectation there for me. But I am ready to be of assistance to whoever is there. And I'm not telling you I'm always this way. I'll be at home hung up looking at cable and the telephone ring and I say, God, who is this calling now? And but for the grace of God, I can say, God, help me to listen, help me to hear. The third step also says there will be no permanent or effective sobriety without a persistent and a determined effort at this step. And more than anything, the only thing that I want to be in Alcoholics Anonymous is an example that this program works. They used to have a sign down at the hole in the ground that said, everybody works as an example, even if it's a bad one. That's the only thing that I'm concerned about, is that I'm an example that this program works. I'm an example of some of the old timers that raised me in this program. And I don't know where you come from talking about your hiring sponsors and firing sponsors. I don't understand that. Because you didn't hire me to work for you, and you damn sure can't fire me. Now, I make some newcomers bite the dust, but I don't say I hired them or fired them, because the bottom line is I just don't go for the BS. I don't go for it. This program has taught me and is teaching me more and more. Wait a minute. I don't know. You know, patience and tolerance is a long thing. I haven't got there yet. But I was going to say it was teaching me how to be willing, how to be grateful, how to be humble. And more than that, I need the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know how long I'm supposed to talk up here. Huh? What'd you say? Oh. What do you mean keep going? How long am I might be to run out. I'm trying to get some together here. I'm a big believer in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I do a lot of book thumping, and people say she's a book thumper, and you know what? That's okay. Because I have to know what's in that big book in order for me to live on a daily basis. But then you find people that come up to me and say, "Will you be my sponsor?" I say, "Honey, I can't answer you now. We have to talk about this." I don't just answer on the spot. And even after we talk about it, they don't call me no more. You know, nobody talks to me anyway. That's real strange. They don't talk to me. They don't ask me out to dinner. They don't, I guess when you work in a good program, nobody wants to be bothered, huh? It isn't that. What it is when people ask you out so long and you tell them leave you alone, guess what they do? That's right. And it's just like when I was drinking. Then my song becomes, nobody loves me, nobody seems to care. I'm not going to sit up here and start rambling because I think I have run out of things to say. But I want to leave you with two things. Now, you can take it any way you want it. Okay? I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not even suggesting or making a strong suggestion. I'm just sharing something with you that I have experienced. There ain't no pain in change. The pain is in the resistance to the change. I felt somebody slap their face. There ain't no pain in letting go. And I don't give a damn what it is. The pain is in holding on when it's time to let go. Once again, I'd like to thank the committee for asking me to come out and share with you. And I'd like to let you know that I love you. I love each and every one of you in this room this afternoon. If you don't love me, it really doesn't matter. I think you do, and that makes it so. You were great. Wow.